Are there any items any member of the public would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes as written for the meeting on June 24th, 2014.
We have a motion made by Lavella with a second by Gilmore to approve the minutes as written for the meeting on June 24th, 2014. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. New business item number 1. CUP-14-01, conditional use permit for gas and oil wells. Hold a public hearing for and consider a proposed conditional use permit to allow for oil and gas extraction wells in the A-agricultural district on approximately 157 acres of property located on the north side of the intersection of West 159th Street and South Hill Creek Road. Do we have a staff presentation this evening?
Good evening, Commissioners. Michelle Leininger, Planning Staff. The item before you, as just stated, is a conditional use permit for gas and oil wells. The summary of the proposed application. The applicant is requesting 55 wells, 33 of production and 22 injection wells, and they're proposed in 2 different phases. They're proposing landscaping around the tank battery, and this and the phasing are both shown on the site plan that the applicant has provided. Time frame is estimated for 20-plus years for the lifeline of the wells, though the applicant is specifically asking for a 20-year limit with this conditional use permit. Property owner would not lease the property but retain a licensed operator to conduct operations. At this point in time, no operator has been chosen. Just some history of the property. The subject property, along with some adjacent property, was brought into the city with intentions to develop with residential uses. This was about in the early 2000s. The sewer benefit district was implemented and constructed to benefit this property in the area. The downfall of the markets have caused the properties not to develop with the intended uses at this point in time. 2012, the property owners requested approval of CUP for 10 oil and gas wells on the same property and later withdrew the application before final action was taken. Just a little background on gas and oil wells. There's a lot of details, there's a lot of different types of wells. Try to focus a little bit on what the applicant is proposing. They're proposing to install, as I said, both injection and production oil wells. The production wells bring up a mix of oil and water and other materials. Then they are separated out, and then the water is injected back into the ground to help push the oil and water supplies back up into the production wells, kind of a circular process. Then once the oil is brought back out, it is goes into holding tanks, and then when those get full, they're emptied and brought off-site. Potential impacts of oil wells. We're not to say these are going to happen, not to say this happens in every situation, but these are general potential impacts. Spilling of the water, which is more of a saltwater mixture, oil or mud used to drill the wells, which can contaminate groundwater. This site has floodplain and a creek running through it, so that is a concern. Pump engines can be loud. Can be difficult and unsafe to develop residential uses around existing or plugged wells. I know it's easy to see wells that are in production. You see the pump jacks and such. And we do have residential subdivisions in town that have developed around capped wells. Well, the developers may have known about those wells. I don't know really how many property owners know about some of those wells. Come across them while digging and such. If they're plugged properly, they can be safe, but you know, there's always that risk. Some of them can produce unpleasant odors. There's always the potential for methane gas to be a part of what comes out of some of the wells. They can use a large amount of water. This proposal does not propose to bring any public water facilities and use those on site, but others do that. Wells can be hazardous, again, if they're not maintained or plugged appropriately. Most of the gas and oil wells in and around Gardner are relatively shallow. I'm sure you've heard bad things and horror stories about fracking. Well, this would technically be a type of fracking. You have two different types. You have vertical fracking and you have horizontal fracking. The wells around this area tend to be vertical fracking, and they are a little more, or I should say a little less disastrous potentials to go along with that. So that's one security with the wells in the area. Wells are also regulated by the Kansas Corporation Commission, excuse me, also known as the KCC. They do have regulations that need to be followed, along with, and a lot of times they're the ones that go in and clean up improperly plugged wells or abandoned wells. Chapter 15 of the Gardner Municipal Code also outlines regulations for oil well permits. So go over some procedural requirements to tag on to that. Oil wells in the city require approval of a conditional use permit and associated site